Hello everyone, welcome back and thank you for staying with us on JDCN Forum 2020. After we discussed and dug deeper into the realms of environmental resilience, rethinking our climate and sustainability, our second policy discussion is on the economic and social recovery during recession. And there is so much to talk about. But before we kick off the session, let us first have a look at this next coverage on the world is in recession, how the economy and the city can recover.
Indonesia's economy was doing reasonably well before the pandemic, steadily expanding by around 5% a year for some time and with a good prospect to continue doing so. However, the pandemic and the existence of local policy PSBB affected Indonesia's economy in the second quarter of 2020, contracted up to 5.32%. MSME has been strongly affecting Indonesia's economy during the pandemic. The government runs the National Economic Recovery Program by allocating funds of more than 100 trillion for the MSME. Almost all sectors in Indonesia's industry were devastating, which we believe there are three sectors that seriously affected throughout pandemic period. First, accommodation and food and beverage. In the early pandemic era, this sector was the most affected by 92.47%. The second was the transportation and warehousing sector, which decreased by 90.34%. State-owned companies engaged in the transportation sector, such as Kereta Api Indonesia, significantly decreased the number of passengers from 34 million passengers to only 5 million passengers. Similarity patterns also happened in number of passengers for the aviation and maritime transportation sectors. The last was the tourism sector. This sector is still coping with the impact of COVID-19 since due to local regulation to reduce the spreading of COVID-19 in several regions of Indonesia. The figure of foreign tourist visit was only 160,000 in April 2020, or lower by 87.44% compared to April 2019. On the other hand, there are some sectors that have been continuing to grow. For instance, the health sector and social activities as the highest sector, information and communication, and the last was the water supply and waste management sector. The government has allocated a total cost of handling COVID-19 and national economic program of more than 600 trillion for 2020. Meanwhile, in 2021, the government will also focus on 6 sectors that are funded by itself, such as healthcare, social protection support for the lower middle class, support to sectoral ministries and local governments, MSMEs, corporate financing, and incentives for business. DKI Jakarta, as the capital city and the largest business activities in Indonesia, also prepare 5 strategies to recover the economy. First, acceleration and optimization of direct assistance to 2.4 million households by involving regional-owned enterprises. Second, reserving and strengthening the economy. The DKI Jakarta government seeks to develop micro, small, and medium enterprises. Third, acceleration of development activities or projects has a major impact, in particular those related to transportation such as MRT and LRT. Fourth, acceleration of basic infrastructure projects and urban programs. DKI Jakarta received 12.4 trillion in assistance from the central government. And the last one, post-COVID-19 urban innovative economic development. However, the economic recovery will not run without satisfying cooperation and collaboration between the governments, business actors, and the community altogether. Pandemic triggered people to fastly adapt by continuing for innovation. Vinanda Rahma, Kurnia Yurniarwan, Jakarta.
Well, hello everyone, we're back and on starting the second session of the second day of our forum. Let us now say hello to our participants. There are all so many of you and we're so happy that you're still staying with us for the second session. We would love to engage with you, so please propose your questions. If you're on Zoom right now, please propose it and write your questions on the Zoom application's chat box located just below your screen. And for those of you watching on YouTube, we ask you to engage with us. Propose your questions on the comment section. And once again, we'd like to extend our profound gratitude and sincere thanks for your support and for engaging with us. And now let us lead our second discussion today. We have Professor Bustanul Arifin with us as moderator. Professor Bustanul Arifin is a professor of agricultural economics, University of Lampung, and a senior economist from the Institute for Development of Economics and Finance, or INDEF. Good morning, Professor. We're so happy and proud to have you here with us today. And the topic now is on recession and economic recovery, and I'm sure you have so much to say regarding this topic and what recession means to you, especially in outlining 2020. So, Professor, let's say hello to our speakers. Oh, Professor, I think you're still on mute. Could you please unmute? Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Ibu Sekda, Ibu Sri Haryati. Good morning, Pak Hate Basri, our economist, our former minister. Good morning, Pak Oliver Thornby from the McKinsey and Singapore. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a policy discussion on the topics I think everybody is waiting for. It's a Jakarta Development Collaboration Network on economic and social recovery during the recession. Okay, I would like to have rules first in regulation. You have only 8 minutes for each our resource person, our speakers. I will start later with Ibu Sri Haryati, then continue with Pak Hati Basri, then Pak Oliver Thornby. Okay. The first, maybe I would like to give opportunity to Ibu Sri Haryati. Okay, what is the latest situation of the Jakarta economic and social recovery in Jakarta? Please, you have time, Bu Sekda. You have 8 minutes.
Thank you very much, Prof. Inul. Greeting from Jakarta. It's good to see you back after a long time, Prof. And it is such a great opportunity for me to meet all of you virtually. Initially, I want to appreciate and thank all of the JDCN's committee's effort, webinar panelists, Bapak Hatip Basri and Mr. Oliver Thornby, and all webinar participants. On this occasion, I will explain the impact of the COVID-19 and Jakarta's economic recovery. I want to emphasize several things, including our economic downturn and how we respond, such as our support to our vulnerable group, shift to a new paradigm, commitment to provide service, and lastly, crafting a collaborative city. 2020 has been a tough year for all of us due to the outbreak of COVID-19. As we can see in this slide, the COVID-19 pandemic has a significant impact on economic conditions. This year, Jakarta experienced a recession after 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth. This unwanted effect is encouraged by the fact that there is an increase in the unemployment rate to 10.9% in August 2020. With the increase of unemployment, we see that there are 233,000 people that are entering the unemployment phase at present, that caused Jakarta to be placed at the highest poverty number in 20 years. We understand that the government cannot rely on business as usual to ensure financial sustainability. We must quickly adapt and innovate. And this is our response. First, we support toward vulnerable groups. Then, shift a new paradigm. Thirdly, commitment to provide service. And lastly, crafting a collaborative city. We focus to help and support through social safety net to the vulnerable group since even prior to the pandemic. However, as the situation worsened, more vulnerable groups appear. Our response then is to enlarge the benefited household to 2.4 million by fulfilling their food need, maintains the purchasing power and consumption level, and prevent Jakarta's poverty rate from increasing. And these 2.4 million households are the cutting of almost about 70% of Jakarta's population. Can you imagine? Furthermore, as I mentioned before, this pandemic has encouraged all society to shift a new paradigm. When coronavirus hit China, it is reported that Starbucks shut down about 80% of its stores. However, they shifted contactless Starbucks experience in those that stay open and now rolling it out more widely. From a health perspective, we should wear masks, wash our hands, and manage social distancing. Undoubtedly, in economic perspective, we also should adapt and innovate to a new business model in terms of supply and demand. Digitalization, for example, has accelerated tremendously. Telemeeting and virtual classroom have become commonplace, paving the way for access for all. Innovative economic development can be implemented in the health sector, such as telemedicine and logistics, and even build future income for a better Jakarta. Fortunately, the government quickly responded to identify the problem and try to resolve it. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the policy taken by the government is to enhance the ecosystem that encourages entrepreneurial growth through the Jakpreneur program. What is the Jakpreneur program? Jakpreneur is a platform for the creation, facilitation, and collaboration of micro and small business development through entrepreneurial ecosystem, such as startups, educational, and financial institutions. The current Jakpreneur membership reaches 200,000 people. The policies taken to develop Jakpreneur include business training, facilitation of credit financing, virtual exhibition, and also simplified licensing, local retribution relief, market creation through the e-order system, which is a platform to create SMEs purchase demand from internal government. We create the demand and simultaneously provide cheaper production of raw material procured by our regional-owned enterprise. Even though we are in these trying times, the government still committed and exert to foster economic prosperity to all society. The government has created a new scheme for SMEs permits. This circumstance illustrates that the SMEs will be visited and approached directly by official staff, so they don't need to propose the permit. And through this relaxation, SMEs can easily get their permit in draft just one day. Moreover, it has successfully issued about 65,000 permits in just 4 months. And we also simplified and digitalized construction permit processing for supporting business. And the government had also issued a policy of relaxing local taxes and retribution to reduce the business expenses and also to boost public consumption. Jakarta government must stimulate the city's economy by managing several infrastructure projects such as flood management, digital transformation, transport, and many more. Well, those examples mentioned above are just the beginning of our action in economic recovery. However, we know this is far from enough. Jakarta's government cannot do this alone. In order to push our economy from recession and beyond, we need the participation of all Jakarta citizens. We have to work together. Thus, we, Jakarta, use the City 4.0 model, making its citizen as a co-creator and the government as a collaborator in development. I would like to provide an example to this movement. Here, we developed a platform for local and global partnership through the name is kolaborasi sosial berskala besar, which trigger more people to act for the city and the citizen. We reinforce each other with resource sharing from material like food, gadget, money, and also knowledge. This program successfully invites citizens to be a part of social solidarity. For instance, we have SMEs collaborators that provide hygiene set, training, knowledge sharing, and soft loan. And well, as a closing remark of my presentation, I leave a noteworthy quotation from founder and executive chairman of World Economic Forum, that the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world. Establishing policies, plans, and effort indicate our big concern to restore Jakarta in almost every aspect. The economy will not recover if efforts to treat the spread of COVID-19 are not complete. Thus, we should optimize 3M movement, mask wearing, maintaining distance and hand washing, and 3T, testing, tracing, treatment, and also enforcement of the large-scale social restriction and many other factors. We hope that the Jakarta's economic growth will increase in 2021 and the problem will overcome rapidly. It won't be enough if we do this by ourselves. So we need all Jakarta citizen attention toward this matter. Prof, this is all of my session. Thank you very much for your kind attention. And it would be great if we expand more through the next session. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot, Ibu Sekda. Even though we cannot hear clearly, the connection is on and off. I think there must be some problem in connection. Anyway, I think we all listen to Ibu Sekda. What's the initiative and procedures, mention doctriner, SME platform, entrepreneurial ecosystem, and everything. Okay, I would like to go to the next panelist, to Dr. Hatib Basri, our former Minister of Finance. Pak Hatib, I think you have something to say. We have read your article about Nike shape, V shape, K shape, and everything about the Indonesian economy and the recovery all over the world. What is the expectation? What is your hope? Are we on the right track for the speedy and social economic recovery in this recession? Please, time is yours. You have 8 minutes as well, Pak Hatib. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mustano Arifin. Can you hear me clearly? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you very well. Yeah.
Okay. Could someone help me with my slides? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. A very good morning to all of you. Can someone help me with the slides, or should I do it by myself here?
No, the slide is on. The slide is on.
Okay. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can see you. We can see the slide and you as well.
Or someone can someone help me with the slides? I sent the slides yesterday. Something wrong here.
You can see in the screen as well. Somebody is operating your slide.
Okay, very good. So if we can go to the next slide, because I cannot see my slides here. Yeah, we go to the next slides. Then in the slides that you can see, the impact of this pandemic to the Indonesian economy. Yeah, I myself, I cannot see the slides. Okay.
You can view as gallery view, so you can see everybody.
Okay. Okay. Now, okay. So if you look at from the slides, there are three types of the group of income. Yeah, I'm using the data based on I'm using the index data based on the transaction made by at the Bank Mandiri. So this is just a sort of like, leading indicators for that. It is very interesting if you look at on these charts, a group of people that come under the classification of the employee, or they receive the fixed salary, they are not affected basically by this pandemic. Yeah, so 100 is the pre-COVID condition, the normal situation. So if your income is less than 100, it means that you are affected by this COVID. And if you look at this group, the employee, their income is around 99%, so not really affected. But the one who affected by this pandemic definitely is the informal sector, because their income now dropped from 100% to become 70%. So the pandemic already hit the informal sector by around 30%. That's the reason why from the beginning I said that what Indonesia needs to do, and also the government of Jakarta, is to provide the cash transfer, because we have to fill the gap to boost the purchasing power, especially for food. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, if you look at from the next slide, it is very interesting to look at this slide. Yeah, I'm using the data from Indonesia. Try to look at the percentage or proportion of the savings to the total income. The gray area is the latest data. Yeah, it is very interesting if you look at on this data for all income groups. Yeah, except the 5 million and above, experience a slowing down of savings. So I would say that people who has a spending between 1 to 2 million, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 4 to 5, their savings are declining. But if you look at the group of people with the spending more than 5 million, their proportion of savings are actually increased. So we should expect, because of this, the possibility of what I call the K-shaped recovery. Because the middle and upper class, because they do have savings, they could manage to get out from this crisis in a better position than the middle and lower income group. Yeah, because the lower middle income group, they lost their savings, they don't have access for digital, so it will be very difficult to manage the situation. Whereas the middle and upper income group, they saving increase, I'll explain to you later on, and also they have the access for the digital. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, if we go to the next slide, this is also very interesting. Yeah, can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. We can see in this slide the pattern of the consumer spending. This is spending based on the income group. As of September, you can see the spending of the high income group lower than the low income group. Why is that? Because the low income group, most of the proportion of the spending are basically food. So my point is, if your business related to the essential, then you are doing relatively okay. Or if your business related to digital, you are doing relatively okay. Or your business related to the health, you are doing relatively okay. But if you look at the high income group, yeah, they surpass the low income group only in October. Why is that? Because the long weekend. We had a long weekend in October. And then if you look at the composition, the basket of the composition of the high income group, they spend only 9% on food, but the rest of their consumption mostly on leisure, on entertainment, yeah, on durable goods. So what will be the implication? Because during the the government required that people, to stay at home, and then the entertainment business are basically stopped, yeah, and the leisure business are basically stopped. So the upper and middle income group, they cut the consumption. Next slide, please. So this is the implication. If we go to the next slide. Yeah, this is the retail and neighborhood. It is very interesting whether the question is whether the high income group, do they spend any money at all or not? It is very interesting. There is one of particular group that spending is even higher than the pre-pandemic. is the gray line. Can you guess what's the gray line? It's hobbies. People stay at home, they spend money on bicycle, to buy Brompton, to buy road, to buy ornament plant, to buy betta fish. Why? Because they have to stay at home and they need to do an activity. So they try to substitute this spending on entertainment, on leisure, to that kind of hobbies. But of course, spending on hobbies is relatively small. That's the reason why the middle and upper income group is still holding their spending. And then you know how to encourage the middle and upper income group to spend the money. Only one thing, if the government will be able to address the pandemic, because most of their spending are basically, next slide please, on travel, on airlines, on entertainment. Yeah, if you can go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So look at this. It is very clear that airlines, travel, hotel, pretty much below the pre-COVID condition. Yeah, but I'm not saying that people at the hotel business they don't do the innovation. They do. For example, now what people are doing, they try to avoid airlines, but they do the road trip. And then they prefer, rather than go to the hotel, they prefer to go to villa. Yeah. So basically, if you can exclude yourself from group of people, from crowd, then you go to the restaurant, you take for the private room, yeah, you go to the hotel, you take the villa, then you are doing relatively well. Can we move to the next slide, please? I would like to make a comparison for some other countries, Jakarta and others. Look at this. This is the visit to restaurant. Yeah, look at Jakarta. The maximum is still about 50%. What will be the implication? If the health protocol is still in place, the maximum visit to restaurant is 50%, and the restaurant will not achieve the economies of scale. If you cannot achieve the economies of scale, then it means that you can pay the variable cost, but not overhead cost. So there is a risk that some companies in Jakarta will become a zombie companies because they cannot achieve the economies of scale. Right? Next slide, please. And here is the visit to a shopping mall in Jakarta. Look at this. So my point is, as long as the pandemic is still there, then it's still very difficult to get the fully recovery. Yeah, I can see that the economic growth in Jakarta have been improved quite significantly. In the second quarter, we grew by -8%, but in the third quarter, turned around to -3, -4%. So it's improvement. But I would say again, Prof. Bustano, that maybe the recovery in Jakarta will take like a swash shape, like the Nike logo brand. Perhaps they will have this positive, positive growth by the first quarter 2021. I leave it up here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pak Dr. Khatib Basri. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you can see the presentation. Yes, we're controlling the health. We do a health protocol, but the cost is to the economic recovery. Okay, and I think later we can discuss what's the best for combining both health and economic recovery. Last speaker is Mr. Alex. Sorry, Mr. Tohnbi. He will be sharing with us about the analysis of McKinsey. Okay, what is the latest situation? What is your opinion, and so on. Okay, you have time, Pak Hatip, just a bit of the time. Hope Pak Tohnbi, you can have good time. I mean, exact time. Please, the time is yours.
Thank you. Selamat pagi, everyone. Let me first say that I am delighted to be part of the forum. My heart pounds a little bit extra for Indonesia, for Jakarta. I've been coming to Jakarta at least one day, if not 5 days a week, from 2005 to 2018. So my heart does pound a little bit extra for the city and for the country. I have a few slides. Let me just check that you can hear me okay before I continue.
Yes, I can hear very well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Professor. So listen, can we have the next slide, please? I'm going to take a little bit of a longer term view. here. And this is one of my favorite quotes, if you can see it on the screen. It's that the test of intelligence is to hold two opposing thoughts, two different thoughts in mind at the same time. So I will present to you two different thoughts at the same time. The first set of thoughts is that times are very tough. The pandemic is affecting lives and livelihoods in ways we could never have imagined. It is very tough. I would also pose to you an opposing thought that there are many opportunities coming out from this pandemic, opportunities to help our people, opportunities to grow our industries, improve our cities. The second set of thoughts is about Indonesia, about Jakarta itself. And I see, I'm the chairman of McKinsey across Asia, many different countries across the world. And I would say that whilst it is very tough, Indonesia and Jakarta in particular holds more opportunity, and there's reason to be more, perhaps cautiously optimistic, more so than many other countries and other cities, frankly, even though that it is tough. So those are the two opposing thoughts that I would like to talk about. If we can go to the next page, please. I think it's important to remind ourselves the contexts that we live in and work in today. I'm not going to go through all of this, but there is a pandemic. A colleague of mine, he likens the ongoing pandemic to being inside of a long, dark tunnel. We're inside of a long, dark tunnel. We don't know how long that tunnel is going to be. And we frankly don't know what's on the outside of the tunnel. So that is the uncertain environment that we live in. But there are many other things happening at the same time. There's the growing centrality of Asia. We're seeing a big shift globally to Asia. We talk about the Asian Central and so forth. And by the way, Indonesia is an extremely important and central part to that. We also live in the next chapter of globalization. We have ongoing geopolitical tensions and what have you. That causes many shifts. It causes shifts in supply chains and so forth. But part of that next chapter of globalization is regionalization. We see increasing Asia for increasing trade in between Asian countries, increasing investments in between Asian countries and so forth. The fourth part here, ongoing technology revolution, the digitization, mobility and so forth. The fifth is consumer shifts and the growth of consumerism and demand, especially in our part of the world, and new generations, Gen Z coming up. And finally, sustainability. Let's not forget, we are on the verge of a huge climate crisis as we speak. So that's the context I think is important to remember. Now, next page, please. Against that context, I will say that I am cautiously optimistic. Sorry, can we go back one page? Back one page, please. I am cautiously optimistic about Indonesia. Why? Why is that? If you look in history, Indonesia has grown faster than most countries. It's between 4 or 5, 6%, depending on the year. Actually, if you look at, you'll see a number 4.7 is the volatility. And maybe, but the volatility of growth is actually much lower in ASEAN and in Indonesia than it is in many, many other countries. It's lower than the volatility in the US and in Russia and so forth. So there is something about Indonesia, about Asia, about Indonesia in particular on the growth side that gives reason for optimism. Indonesia is a digital savvy. If you look at, we used to be the capital of the world. We are the Twitter world. We are so many. You look at mobile commerce, Indonesia is well ahead. It's actually leads the league tables in mobile commerce in terms of penetration. So there's many reasons. And the entrepreneurial spirit, I think we heard talked about SMEs or the micro SMEs earlier. Indonesia has a very large group of micro and SMEs, and they are very entrepreneurial, very adaptable. Now, times are tough, they are adaptable. So these are the reasons I'm cautiously optimistic. We go to the next page, please. Now, this page has too many numbers to go through, but I would point to you, and I've tried to hide these in the middle. You look at different metrics. You look at the number of bank accounts. You look at the number of cars per person. You look at the number of doctors in the middle there, healthcare, the doctors, 10,000 people. Many of these sectors are underpenetrated, and the population needs more services, more products, and what have you. And technology gives us an opportunity to leapfrog, and that is happening. So there's an underlying latent demand here, which gives me the next page, please, which gives, I'm not going to go through all of it. Sorry, go back one page, which gives few opportunities in different sectors. Sorry. Can we go to page number 6, please? I can't see. Sorry, there seems to be a page that isn't showing. There, I think it is. I can't quite see it, but it is a page with 6 different sectors that I think are important to look out for. There we go. The healthcare sector, the opportunity to provide healthcare for all, using technology, using digital. Look at some of the things happening in India, these, for example, the Apollo 24, which more than 1 million online consultations. But it's not only about using online to get doctors out to everyone, also about med tech, medical technology opportunities, services, tests, and what have you. So huge opportunity, especially for, you go to the middle part there, number 2, agriculture, but agricultural technology. How do you improve yields to make a more sustainable, a more productive agriculture and aquaculture, especially important because the world is going to need more protein, more food and more protein, more safe protein, more healthy protein. You go to number 3, renewables revolution. The levelized cost of energy these days in solar, in wind, is in many places now, many regions, is lower than the variable cost of coal. Huge opportunity for Indonesia. We could talk about the manufacturing and the supply chain. We've seen the shifts out of China recently for multiple reasons, not only geopolitics, but also because of the increase in costs in China. The cost of China is now 3 times that in Vietnam, and we've seen a huge surge in Vietnam. Big opportunity for Indonesia for part of the capture. Livable and smart middle, in particular, I get very optimistic about some of the technology revolutions, whether it's electric vehicles and all the things, or shared vehicles, driverless vehicles coming, and those are just vehicles. There are many other smart technologies that are coming up. Leads to significant infrastructure and what have you. So, and I'm going to stop in the interest of time. I think there are many sectors that are poised for growth, and we're seeing this differentiation of COVID. Some pulling ahead earlier from Bapak Basri. Having said that, just a few watch-outs, and I've highlighted a few watch-out here on the page. The first one is, what is the future of work going to be? The future. Next page, please. The future of work. We know automation is happening. We know.
Oliver, I'm afraid you have a lot. We have limited time.
Yes.
If you can, yeah. Okay.
I will wrap up. Let me just wrap up and say that there are several things to watch for. But let me just say this, and let me positive note. I think there are many opportunities here for Jakarta and for in particular. Thank you very much, Professor.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you, Onbi. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have a question and answer session. The 6 sectors from Oliver, I think, is very important, at least after the COVID. Okay, but again, today we have to do the recovery. There are a lot of questions. Let me how to organize this. First, I will read the question for Ibu Sekda. The question is actually from Edi Wicaksono, Ibu Sekda. I think you have, hopefully Ibu Sekda still monitor us. Okay, the question is about the for the future for economic growth of Jakarta. How much the economic growth rate for 2021? If in case Bapeda or economic section have make a projection for 2021, how much the economic growth of Jakarta? Okay, I think probably question later for Pak Hate Basri. What is the projection for Indonesia anyway? Second question from Ibu Sinta to Ibu Sinta. Okay, everybody is interested in Jackpreneurs. I think many people are interested in how to join the Jackpreneur. Two questions, please answer that question from the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, you can continue typing in the chat room, chat menu. You can have the question, and we will select question. Probably we can give you present error. This is good.
Thank you very much. Can you hear my voice, Prof?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay. Thank you, Eddie, for the question. If we talk about 2021, Bank Indonesia projects that the Jakarta's economic growth in 2021 will range about 5% until 5.4%. Yesterday, I had a meeting with the Bank Indonesia staff, so we talked about that. But the economic growth for 2021, of course, is influenced by many factors. Much of which depend on the health side of things, especially on the COVID-19 situation in Jakarta. Firstly, the provision of the COVID-19 vaccine. I think vaccine is important for we predict about the economic. Secondly, increased consumption due to the improvement of consumer well-being and spending opportunities that come with economic reopening. And also about the increased export due to the economic growth and openness of our trading partners. And the last, I think, the increase in investment is due to the infrastructure development. I think that's all for my answer about the economic 2021. And when we talk about the Jackpreneur, how? If people want to join the SMEs program, the name is Jackpreneur, first, there are two ways actually. The first, they can register through Entrepreneurship Assistant Officer in 44 sub-districts. And second, people also can register directly on the jackpreneur.jakarta.go.id website. You can just fill and follow the instruction, and you can join over there. Meanwhile, the collaborators who want to participate can join the SME's large-scale social collaboration. Like I mentioned before, kolaborasi sosial berskala besar. You can join with the corona.jakarta.co.id website. And then the people that want to be a collaborators can provide facility package essence, like a capital loan package, training, and so on. If you enter to that website, there are many kind of menu button. I think that's all, Prof.
Thank you, Bu Sekda. I think it's quite clear, ladies and gentlemen, for Pak Edi and Bu Sinta, the answer from Bu Sekda. Wait, this is a question for Pak Oliver, Pak Tonbi, okay, from Pak Azwar. Please comment on the vaccines for the economic recovery. What is your expectation? How crucial, how important is the vaccine, successful vaccination? Probably you have other information, please comment as well. Probably the same question, Hatip, if you want to answer about vaccination and the economic recovery. Oliver, please.
So very difficult question because I don't think we know yet. But let me say a few things. Number one, so far, I think the vaccines have given rise to optimism and hope that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And we've seen that in stock market. I think, what is the real effect of the vaccine? That remains to be seen. I think 2020 is going to be a year of trialing and adjusting. I think there are many questions. First question is, does the work at scale? And does it have any other downsides that we don't know about just yet? The second one is the availability. Which countries are going to get doses for which parts of the population? And how can we distribute? And we know that these are huge challenges. So I think that 2021 is the year that trying to get it out and seeing if it works and adjusting along the way. And hopefully we'll see the real effect in 2022.
Okay, thank you, Oliver. Hatip, if you want to give comments, please.
Well, first of all, Professor Bustano, I'm not an epidemiologist. Perhaps I'm not the best person to talk about vaccine, but one thing that I can share with you, this is the implication for the economy. The recovery will depend so much on how long the distribution process of this vaccine. Yeah, because if the health protocol is still there, the economy cannot operate 100%. So let me give an example. If we are assuming that Jakarta grows usually around 5.8 to 6%, and the distribution will take, let's say, about 8 months in Jakarta, probably, the recovery will happen in the second half of 2021. Then let's assume maybe the growth will be around 70% because we cannot operate 100%. Then maybe the Jakarta growth for next year will be around 4 to 5%. That's the way I look at the situation and how the vaccine will have an impact to the economy.
Another question from Ibu Sinta. What is the lesson learned from other countries if you want to share with the audience?
This is very good question, Bu Sinta, because if we look at the other country experience, the one who are able to somehow, quote unquote, to manage the pandemic in relatively better way is a country who has an experience with SARS before. Look at China, look at Taiwan, look at South Korea, look at Vietnam, because they already invested on public health since long time ago, since SARS. Yeah, the rest, if you look at the case of Europe, if you look at the case of US, none of them experience in mitigating the pandemic, the SARS, similar to the country like Indonesia. Yeah, that's the first one. The second one is how do we sort of like design the recovery? In my view, I can see that we can start for something new for the better in the future. That is why the recovery should focus on designing the fiscal to address the inequality, because this will be the problem in the future. The second one, how we make sure that the recovery will be green recovery, because there is a room for that because the interest rate is very low now. The third one, we probably need to prepare that the development in the future will be the sustainable development, which is include the health sector, etc. When we design our development.
Okay, thank you for the answer. I'm afraid we have I think no more time, but probably I would like to read question and please answer as also as closing statement. Okay, first for Ibu Sekda. Question: how to speed up the recovery of tourism, hotel, restaurant, and so on in Jakarta? If you want to share this strategy to the audience, I think it will be very successful. And probably want some advice from Pak Oliver and Pak Hatip about the hotel and restaurant. Given your data, your presentation for the next, for Jakarta at least, for the short term, and also as a closing statement, because the time is up. Please, Ibu Sekda.
Yes, I think if we talk about the all business in Jakarta, can you hear?
I cannot hear you.
Sorry?
I cannot hear you.
Hello?
I think there's technical problem again with Ibu Sekda. Ibu Sekda, can you hear the me? And could you give
I hear you.
Some statement? Okay. Okay. Question about the tourism, the hotel and restaurant. What is the strategy for Jakarta and the next? And also as your closing statement.
Please. Hello.
Okay, I can hear you. Please just say something as a closing statement. I think we have problem. I'm sure. I think we have to jump to Oliver and Pak Hatip. Oliver, if you have some ideas on the hotel and restaurant sectors in the short term.
So listen, I'm not sure I'm deeply qualified for that, but this is an important area to get ahead of, and the long-term opportunity for Indonesia is very, very. And we do see, for example, Singapore is experimenting with a few different things coming soon. So I just think that, looking around and learning from others around some of those safe protocols to open hotels and what have they are being built as we speak. If you don't mind, shall I do the statement now?
I think I'm afraid we don't have enough time.
No
for closing statement, Pak Hatip.
Well, I have to say this is not an easy time for all of us. Yeah, but I do believe looking at the recovery path, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel for all of us. But one thing I would like to emphasize again, there is no way we can solve the economic problem unless we address the issue of the pandemic. So let me quote what Greg Menke of Harvard said. This is the economic crisis that the answer will be provided by microbiologists rather than economists.
Okay, I like it. Thank you very much. Ibu Sekda, you want to say something?
Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. So what happens on closing statement?
Okay. I think during 2020, we have learned a lot to deal with the pandemic. We have adapted very well in terms of how we work, how we interact, and invention through digitalization. And the COVID-19 pandemic is not over. The effort for economic recovery will not run optimally without solving health problems. And now, also, I never stop to remind all of you about 3M, wearing masks, washing hands, and keeping your distance. And as government, we committed to support treaty, testing, tracing, and treatment. Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you very much. I think we come to the end of the session. I'm so sorry. We would like to discuss longer, but the time is very limited. I think thank you very much for Ibu Sekda, for Pak Hatip Basri, for Pak Oliver Tonby, for being with us, share your thoughts and experience for social and economic recovery during the recession. I think I will close the session. I will come back next time and return to our MC. Thank you very much. Selamat siang.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much, Professor Bustanu. Excellent moderating. And to our speakers, thank you so much for handling the session. Albeit the technical difficulties that you've all handled like a champion. Thank you. And while that concludes our panel discussion on the economic and social recovery during recession, I hope you've gained incredible insights from our speakers. We will talk more on more issues next, including to spice up the forum. We're giving away door prizes, so please stay tuned. We'll be right back.